Shalom, shalom, and welcome to today's episode of Living. I am your host, Sister Rakaya, aka your forever librarian. And today we have with us Toveet. Welcome, Toveet.
Thank you, Sister Rakaya. I appreciate you.
Toda for coming.
Thank you for inviting me.
So this is chilled, and just want to have fun and speak our truth. And be comfortable, relax,
Very comfortable.
Take off your shoes if you want to.
I can do that. Let these shoes off.
So we always start with reading your bio. So we have today Sister Toveet, and her name means the goodness of God. And anybody that knows her knows she's that, but she also is not to be toyed with. Woman of valor. She came to Israel in 1998 out of Atlanta. You're originally from Atlanta?
I was born in South Carolina, but my family has lived in Atlanta for about almost 50 years now.
Oh, okay. So you went there as a young child in Atlanta.
About 46 years.
All right. So she came at the age of 29. She is currently 56. She has 8 children, no grandchildren yet, no great-grandchildren. Okay. So some of the things that Toveet has done while she was in Atlanta, she worked at Soul Vegetarian Restaurant as a waitress, and she was Nasik Ram's first personal secretary. She came home and she worked at New Kingdom School in Holiness as a tutor and an English teacher, right?
Right.
She is also a youth development programmer and mentor. She's done the New Kingdom School in Holiness summer camp program. She's done Camp Identity and Conscious Care Camp. And during the interview, you'll give us a breakdown of the difference between those. She's worked with the Ministry of Divine Health as a volunteer nurse. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that. She's done prenatal exercise classes.
Right.
She's a certified emergency first responder, volunteer English teacher at Akfa School.
Right.
She's been the Woman of Valor chairperson for the last 3 years. Last 4 years, okay. She is a caregiver, providing elder care to some of our elders. And she also works with Quintessence Fermented Foods.
Right.
That everything? Now, I don't know how you got time for anything else.
I mean, during my I've had to do other jobs too.
Okay, right. Because she and I worked together at Tevedeli for a while.
Right. I worked at
Yeah.
Toveet.
Yep.
I've done some housekeeping. I've done some
You've done
things,
whatever it is that you needed to
whatever
do.
I needed to do to support my family.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So, hallelujah. Welcome
Thank you,
to
ma'am.
Living Chronicles. So,
Thank you.
we're going to get started as always, like we always do. Our very first question is our story of how and why you came into the kingdom. How did that happen? Why did you come? What was your motivating force for coming? And the story behind you coming. So, tell us about that.
Well, that's an interesting question because, many of us say, oh, I came into the kingdom was the calling. I really came into the kingdom because the man that I was in love with was in the kingdom.
Hey, I mean, there's a number of people that came for that reason.
Right. I was a Peace Corp volunteer in Central Africa and for 2.5 years. When I came back to Atlanta in 1994, I was just coming back from Africa. My mindset had changed and I just, was kind of hanging out, chilling. And then one of my old friends who happened to have been my boyfriend, and there was still a lot of unfinished emotional ties or uncut emotional ties there, was in the kingdom in Atlanta.
Okay.
And so I was listening, I was talking to him. He was very interested in my experience in the Peace Corps as a volunteer. I taught English as a second language in Wanda.
In where?
Rwanda.
In Rwanda?
People say Rwanda, but it's really Wanda.
Oh, okay.
And then I was there for 6 months, but because of the war, I got a transfer to Cameroon.
So you were there just before that war that they had?
I was there, during the war.
Oh, wow.
We were evacuated, but in fact, when I first got there as a volunteer, the country was at war, but it was in it was in the north, and the war was concentrated. It's very much like how the war here is in Gaza,
right?
And so,
and the rest of the country is not always as affected,
right?
Yeah.
And so it was like that in Wanda as well. But when it broke out, when it became a full-fledged civil war, the Peace Corps volunteers were evacuated. Okay, we were evacuated to Kenya, in fact, and I had already put in for a transfer from Rwanda because of my experiences there.
Okay,
that were life-threatening.
Oh, wow.
And just a case of mistaken identity. People thought I was a Tutsi, but that's a whole nother story within itself.
Wow.
But anyway, I went to Cameroon. And I was there for 1.5 years. When I came back, my friend, Ailey Natan, and we were friends. His oldest son, was in an Afrocentric summer camp.
Okay.
And so he asked me, could I do a presentation on Cameroon? And I gladly accepted. And I also had a friend, a brother who also, we left Cameroon at the same time. So I asked him, could he join me in this presentation?
Right.
We did this grandiose presentation for these children.
I know you, so I know
it was off the chain. And we were so proud and we were so excited about doing this for these children. And the summer program was just really an amazing program. And so I did that for him, and he started telling me about what he was doing. And he was in the kingdom.
Okay.
And so, I was like, okay, I would go to Soul Veg. I had gone to Soul Vegetarian before I left for the Peace Corps anyway.
Okay.
And I really didn't understand what it was, but the food was really good.
Okay.
And I liked the service. So I was like, okay. So we would have lunch at Soul Vegetarian. I needed to type a resume so that I could be marketable for jobs. And he invited me to type my resume in the MOI in Atlanta.
Oh, okay.
And so one day I was typing my resume, and Aiden Natan and Melik were talking about the kingdom. And, you know, I didn't know at the time that the conversation was intentional, you know, but I was, you know, I had my little
It was a
ears,
setup, huh?
I had my ears perked, and I was listening while trying to concentrate on this resume. So we can say I started going to classes. Well, before classes, Abba Gadol was out there for his first speaking engagement in America for many years.
Mm-hmm.
And the title of the class was Has the Kingdom of Yah Come?
Uh-huh.
And so it was at the Shrine of the Black Madonna. And I remember buying 2 tickets to attend the presentation. The person I was supposed to go with, you know, decided they didn't want to go at the last minute. So I went by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, you know, it was interesting.
Right.
It was interesting. It was interesting because I grew up in the Christian church. In fact, my father was a minister in the African American Episcopal Church. And, you know, I had a great deal of respect for, you know, that experience because of the historical significance of the African American Episcopal Church. But I would really, you know,
that wasn't it for you like that.
It wasn't like I wasn't really interested in, I wasn't interested. I went out of obligation and just a dedication to my father's ministry. But when Abba Gadol started talking and speaking and teaching from the Bible, it was my first time really even being interested in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
And so my ears kind of like perked up. And, you know, I remember after the presentation going back to Soul Vegetarian because there was a book signing there. Well, the book signing was at the bookstore, the Shrine of the Black Madonna, but they didn't have any books. I remember rushing to the restaurant, Soul Vegetarian, to buy a book. I bought GBT, God, Black Man in Truth, because I wanted his autograph.
Right. Okay.
And so you can say the rest is history. I started going to classes and I got caught up, and, you know, the rest is history.
And ended up here like the rest of us.
And I ended up here like the rest of us.
Did you have one of those experiences with coming home? How was your transition for coming home? Was it very smooth? You came home by yourself? You came home married? Was there something crazy on the plane ride?
Oh, wow. You're speaking to mine. So the plane ride was crazy. Yeah, because I was pregnant.
Okay. With your
first child.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually had a return ticket.
Oh, you bought a round trip ticket.
Oh, yeah, because we just, you know, we wanted our daughter born in the Holy Land. That was, you know, great significance.
So you were going to come have the baby and go back.
And go back with my baby.
That was the plan.
Like I wasn't leaving my baby.
Of course.
With my baby. But as it turned, so yeah, going back to that plane ride, it was crazy. Like I was pregnant, I had swollen ankles. I was coming for New World Passover, in fact.
Okay.
And I was on the plane with Artur Shalem and his wife Simcha, Coach Simcha. And Artur Shalem said something. I mean, we were here only on a very limited. We were here for 2 weeks. I had to go back.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time was determined that this baby was going to be born in Israel. So I came back like almost right before delivery day.
So you came in for New World.
Stayed a couple of weeks.
Stayed 2 weeks, went back, then came back to have the baby.
Yep. Okay. By the time I came back, I was a mess in terms of just like my physical body. I had toxemia. It was a lot. Mm-hmm. We had the baby. I had the baby. I mean, we had a baby, but I had the baby.
Right. When they say we are pregnant, I'm like,
we are pregnant.
How many days did you carry this baby?
Right. And so we were approaching. I had the baby at the end. I had Yali Tal at the end of July.
Okay.
And by September, the holy days are rolling around, and the time came for the holy days.
So he wasn't here for the delivery?
No, he was not.
Okay.
You know, we were kingdom workers. We couldn't afford 2 plane tickets. He had to keep working.
Right.
And so anyway, he started working with the Ministry of Divine Agriculture. And all of a sudden, we got word that we weren't going back. That was very, very traumatic for me. Because I come from a very close-knit family in America. I didn't say goodbye. I only came here with maternity clothes.
Intentions of having a baby, and that's it.
Yeah. I didn't have anything. I didn't even have regular clothes to even go back in. I just figured I'd have something made here.
Mm-hmm.
I was totally unprepared to be here. My transition, I had a rough transition in Israel for 8 years. I was absolutely miserable. And it wasn't because people weren't nice. It was because I was not prepared mentally to relocate to Israel.
Right. And just up and leave your family and everybody.
And we had a conversation, but it just didn't register with me as something being so permanent.
Right.
Alina Town and I did have a conversation about what his plan was, but I guess because, you know, people can say things to you, but if it doesn't resonate with you,
right,
and you haven't really accepted that reality or that being your reality, it's just talk.
Right.
But when it really was our reality,
and when it really hit home that you were not going back,
I struggled. And
I mean, if you really had wanted to go back, could you have just said, I'm going back?
Well, yeah, but we weren't, you know how it was back in the day. We did what our Lord told us to do.
Yes, I know.
You know, it wasn't back and forth. That, you know, my Lord said I was staying in Israel, and that's what I was doing. You know what I'm saying? Right. So it was.
If hindsight was 2020, huh?
Man.
So we'll keep moving along.
Actually, I'm gonna say this. Because 8 beautiful souls were born out of this experience, I probably would do it the same way.
Yeah.
Because I would not have had 8 children in America.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only place that's even conceivable that I could have had 8 children was here in Israel and in the kingdom of Yah.
Mm-hmm.
I just do not. It would have happened
nowhere
else.
It would never have happened.
Right. In hindsight, I would have done the same thing.
But I think we all did what was required at the time that we were moved to do in building this. Right. You know, so yeah, I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah. So
yeah. Well,
no regrets.
Well, yeah. And we're so happy to have you.
Well, thank you. But the 8 years was hard. It was hard and financially.
That was with the whole no status.
No, just, you know, limited financial resources, even though we were a very resourceful couple. Mm-hmm. But, you know, it was hard. It was hard, you know, not necessarily making friends, but, you know, just uprooting and starting over.
Right.
We had marital challenges that were and sometimes extreme. Right. It was just very hard. Right. It was, and then people not really understanding that in the midst of all of this, I'm having a hard transition time. Right. Like I haven't totally, you know, even though I'm having children and I'm having children quickly, it just was it was.
And that in and of itself will take a toll on a woman. Even if you have money, if you have made a decision that you're coming, that just back-to-back babiys. Right. You know, yeah.
Even, you know, living in the communal experience where a lot of my support did come from living communally, not having money, but still the members of the community giving me very nice things, nice clothes, nice shoes for my children. Mm-hmm. You know, that wasn't necessarily the part, you know what I'm saying? It was just a lot of unknowns, even just being young and navigating a marriage, and you know what I'm saying, and not fully, like, my mind not fully being in alignment with the institution of marriage,
Right.
divine marriage. And
Right.
I'm not saying the plural part,
Right.
because I, even before Israel, I was man sharing in the States.
Oh, okay.
But just other part, you know what I'm saying? The role, the
my
woman,
Lord part.
all of that. Like, I did it, but
it was an adjustment for all of us.
It was an adjustment, but inherently, and since we being real and I'm being truthful, I'm 56. I feel that it's very important for me to speak authentically.
Mm-hmm.
I never got that.
Yeah.
I just thought that if you're in a marriage with someone, first of all, you're supposed to be friends. And Alien Natana and I were great friends.
Mm-hmm.
And the friendship is what gets you
right.
through the tough patches.
Right.
But then when you're not friends anymore, you know. But I never got the whole I thought humility was something that you just had, both people had.
It's a two-way street.
It's a two-way street.
Respect is a two-way street.
Respect is a two-way street. I'm a person just like you're a person. That was,
my Lord. I
don't even use the word today. I use spouse.
Right.
Sometimes I say husband because I forget to say spouse.
Right.
But it's just, I have a new spouse now. And Eliasiv is my spouse.
Right.
And so,
but you're looking more for a partnership, not a
partnership,
a hierarchy
no
in the marriage. Because
how does that create, in hierarchy, how does that create an authentic, sincere relationship?
Right.
If you're always looking at me as a woman, looking at my spouse as someone, as a figure of authority in my life,
that's very important.
That didn't work for me.
Right. It didn't work for me.
It didn't work for our marriage either. Right. And I'm not a feminist. I don't believe in feminism is like a construct like racism and capitalism.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And male chauvinism.
Right.
I don't believe in any of that. I think we were put here to, as men and women, to complement
one another. Exactly.
And so there's no hierarchy in that.
Right.
There's equal respect. The roles might be different. I am traditional when it comes to roles in the family.
Right.
But there has to be a respect. A mutual respect. And ultimately, I think the way a marriage runs is really up to the couple.
It should be. There should always be some parameters.
It should be
basic foundational parameters.
Yeah, you should have a foundation, absolutely.
Yeah.
But in terms of roles, depending on the dynamic of that couple.
Right.
The man, you know what I'm saying? What if he's a man that works at home?
Right.
You know, on the computer, or you know, and if the wife is someone who goes out to a workplace.
Right.
That automatically is going to change the dynamics from the traditional roles in a marital relationship. Yeah. So that's when I say it, based on circumstances, situations, the couple decides how that relationship flows.
So that is very modern, so to speak, thinking at this point, because
we live in modern times.
Yeah. Right, and we have to change the times, because a whole lot of what we have lived was built on patriarchy, and you know, we're looking at situations where women were not allowed to vote, where women were not allowed to hold a job, where women. So you're looking at the progression of all of those things, you know.
So I'm gonna say this: patriarchy and matriarchy are not philosophies that I subscribe to.
Right. You may not subscribe to it, but the world that we live in has, and that is the programming that has been pushed on most of the world. Right. So when you live outside of those parameters, you have the ability, you find yourself sometimes in a lonely place.
Oh yeah.
Because everybody doesn't see it. Well,
I don't normally make loud announcements about it.
Right.
But since we're on this, I said it. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And
Right.
it's not to disrespect anything.
Right.
I believe in complementarity, and in the ideal of complementarity, patriarchy and matriarchy do not have
Do
a
not have a
place.
place. Do not have a
And
place.
that's just the truth.
And we can see, historically that it hasn't worked to the benefit
Of anyone.
So, hallelujah.
Mhm.
This is going to be an interesting interview.
Okay.
Okay, so moving right along. Is there anything else that you wanted to say about that part of your life?
No,
that
just
time?
that I do want to say, when the 8-year struggle transitioned into smoother days, I had gone into what I call a state of mental illness because of some of the family hardships that, I was going through. I really felt invisible. I felt like nobody saw me. And like literally,
Yeah.
like no joke, like literally. And I remember telling this to Cohen Rabia years later, and he was like, wow. And I went to the Nation store and a sister, and I cannot remember who this sister is. And I wish I could, because I think I would do something nice for her every week. She said, Toveet, how are your children? And I was like, they're fine. And she called, and I think at this time I had maybe 5 children, 4 or 5 children. And she called all of my children by their first name.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked her, I said, you know my children's names? She was like, yeah. I said, my children? And she was like, yeah. And there was no reason for me not to know that people would know my name, because I was very involved in our community.
Always
but
has
I
been.
had, because I felt, because nobody, because my family needed help.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking about my marriage needed help.
Mm-hmm.
And I just felt like nobody saw.
Right.
And so I call it mental illness, because it actually went into me literally believing that I was invisible. And this sister let me know that I wasn't.
Wow. Well, we have at some point.
And I really wish I could be hypnotized. I ain't gonna go to Abati and ask her to hypnotize me. I mean, I'm for real. And so, yeah, it ended, and then I started like reclaiming me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my self-worth, and valuing who I was as a person.
Right.
And a lot of times you see people, you don't know what they're going through, you don't know what they're
no
thinking.
idea.
And people would see me, people live with me, and was literally what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what the outward appearance was,
Right.
this is what I was thinking.
Hallelujah. Can we go back for a minute?
Mm-hmm.
Peace Corp.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get involved with that?
Well, actually, that's something my mother promoted, like even when I was in high school. She was always saying that she wished that she could go to Haiti for an extended period of time and help in Haiti. And she mentioned Peace Corps. My mother was very altruistic, and both my parents were actually, and my mother is. But my ears would perk up, and she said, I want to go. She wanted to go with her mother, and maybe they could do like a little mission together. And it just never manifested in her life.
Right.
But it was always something that she always talked about. And so here I am in college, and I'm a journalism major. I'm about to go into my senior year, and the journalism profession is overflooded with people. And I didn't want to go to graduate school to get a master's degree right then. I really wanted to stop going to college and do something else. Mm-hmm. And so, everywhere they were telling us, if you want a job in the journalism profession, you're gonna have to get a master's degree today.
Now you have to have a master's degree for practically everything.
Yeah. And so I said, okay, I can do Peace Corps. I just remember everything my email was saying about Peace Corps. And I said, I'm going to do Peace Corps. So in the spring of my junior year, they had recruiters come out from different companies, recruiting, graduates or upcoming graduates. And Peace Corps was there. So I went to the booth where the Peace Corps representative was, and she was a sister, and I talked to her. And I said, I'm pretty sure I want to do Peace Corps. So I put in, I filled out an application, which was very lengthy, but I stayed and did that. And I went home to Atlanta for the summer.
And so you didn't go to college in Atlanta?
No, I went to the University of Georgia in Athens.
Okay.
And so I got a phone call, and it was the sister who was recruiting. And she said, what are you doing? And for some reason, I wasn't working this day. I said, well, I'm just at the house. She said, are you able to come down to town, Atlanta, to the Peace Corps office right now? And I said, yeah, sure. I went. She gave me directions. I went to this office. It was in a big skyscraper, beautiful office, big windows. And we were the only people there.
Mm-hmm.
She sat me down. She said, look, I remember you from, UGA. She said, and I went over your application. You don't qualify for Peace Corps. And I was like, oh, wow. She said, but girl, everybody's out the office, and we gonna fake this application. She sure did.
Wow.
She said, because I am so tired of seeing a bunch of white people go to Africa,
right,
and Black volunteers not get accepted.
Right.
People who are, she said so. And when I tell you, we went line for line. And she told me, she said, I was a volunteer for the Big Brother, Big Sister program, and I tutored in English. And she said, you don't have enough tutoring hours. You don't, she said, you could get in being a tutor. She said, you're not an English major. You're a journalism major, even though my minor is English.
Right.
She told me what to write. At the end of that, she said, well, happy to inform you, you've been accepted into Peace Corps. And if you want to, she said, we can get you an assignment in Central America today. Well, I didn't want to go to Central America. I wanted to go to Africa. And I had to wait a year because that's how many people signed up
for Africa. So you finished school then? I did last year?
I did my last year.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I did my last year, right? I had to, because you have to be a college graduate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know you had to be.
You have to be a college graduate
to go to Peace Corps.
I think period, but definitely in most of the areas that Peace Corps offers volunteers in. So I finished my last year of college. I graduated, and I received my assignment for Peace Corps I graduated in June. January of the next year is when I received my Peace Corps assignment.
Wow.
I waited a very long time. And, I never heard of Wanda. I had one friend, and he was a very good friend of mine. He was a political science major. He said, I don't know about that.
Right.
He was like, it's a lot of unrest there. He said, they're actually at war. Are you sure about that? I said, well, I mean, that's what they sent me. They
obviously wouldn't send me if they thought I was going to be in danger.
Right. But he is the only person. I mean, he had the lowdown.
Mm-hmm.
It's a brother. His name is Wayne Smiley. Brilliant brother. And he was like, well, all right, good luck.
Right.
But and he did. He said it just like what I just said to you. All right, good luck. That's what he said. But I went to Rwanda, and there was an influx of volunteers coming in, but there were only 6 of us that were African American.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so they had this country with volunteers, and all the volunteers were white Americans. And the country director, whose name was Alan, he was a white man. He said when he saw me, he immediately said, she's going to have problems.
Why?
Because I look like a Tutsi.
Ah, okay.
And, you know, when you go Peace Corp, the whole point, Peace Corp is a CIA front. It definitely is.
Okay.
But the assimilation into the societies where the volunteers are sent is so effective. It's so effective. And people love their Peace Corps volunteers because you come in at a grassroots level and you are encouraged to learn the African language there. Well, I was told you better not learn Kinyarwanda. You better not. Alan said, if you learn the language, you will never be able to convince these people that you are not Wandan. He said, and I will put you on a plane right back to the United States.
Wow.
So I didn't learn Kinyarwanda. We had to learn French. Rwanda is a francophone country, so we had to learn French. So we had intense, when I say intense, language training for 3 months.
Wow.
Had 6 hours of French every day. And then in the evening, we had our practical training. So I was an English teacher, so I was trained to teach English in TESOL, teaching English as a second language. So, but we had intense language training, and then it was intense practical training, but not as much. And that was every day except for the weekends.
So you got the weekends off.
Yeah. So we trained in Burundi, which is like a twin country to Rwanda.
Right.
It's the same demographic: Hutu, Tutsi, Twa people.
Right.
So it was a wonderful experience. And 5 of us, the one brother, there was 5 African American sisters, including myself, and 1 African American brother. But he had a situation where he had to go back to the States. And so, yeah, the 5 of us were the first Black volunteers in Rwanda. And they didn't have any problem because they were short. They looked like Bantu women. They didn't even look, the Hutus are Bantu people, but they didn't even necessarily look Hutu.
Right.
So people thought they was Zairian. They were, they were short.
Stop
some
saying
of them
short. Stop saying short.
They were. They were stocky. Like we had a totally different experience. And I was miserable.
You were?
Oh yeah. I was constantly harassed.
Wow.
Even if I was with other volunteers and then went out, because this is what the people, they thought, like, if you go back in Rwandan history, after the Belgium left, the Hutu, when the Belgium were there, they favored the Tutsi people.
Right.
They caused a lot of dissension between
I
the
did
two
do
groups
some reading
of people.
on that. Yeah.
Right. They would even.
But those tribal, there were always tribal issues in different African countries historically. But when the oppressors came in, they intensified all of that.
Well, according to the Rwandans, the Hutu and the Tutsi people live in peace.
Right.
Until the colonizers came. They definitely preferred the Tutsi people. And the Hutu were an agrarian people, or are an agrarian people. They kept the land, they grew the food. The Tutsis were, and by the way, neither people are indigenous to Wanda. The Hutu are Bantu people from West Africa, and they say that the Tutsi people are from Ethiopia.
Okay.
And so they were the Tutsis were they owned the cattle. And so when the Belgian came, they preferred the Tutsis over the
Hutus.
The Hutus. The Tutsis were in office. They went to higher They got higher education.
Right.
It was just a mess.
I read all of that. Yeah.
And the Belgian men took the Tutsi women as wives.
Mm-hmm.
So that created a lot of animosity
Right.
between, between the two groups of people.
Right. Exactly.
So when the Belgian left, the Hutu took over. They were the
Right.
majority because remember the Hutus were like 87% of the
Right.
population, and the Tutsis were like 12, 13%, and then the Twa, who were the original people, they were pygmies. They were like 1%.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't live amongst the people, the Hutus or the Tutsis. They lived deep in the forest.
Okay.
And I only saw a Twa person once.
Wow.
Just like traveling in a public transportation down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw this man who was a Twa.
Mm-hmm.
And they look like pygmies. They're shorter. Instead, they look like pygmy people.
Right.
Anyway, who they thought I was. In 1959, when the Hutu majority took over the government of Wanda, they kicked a lot of Tutsi people out.
Mm-hmm.
These people were exiled out from their country, and some of them went to neighboring African countries, and some of them went to Belgium, other countries in Europe, and some of them went to the States.
And they thought
that we were friends.
Right.
Nobody was caught up on that, on race like that. But I didn't live. All of the sisters lived on the whole other side of the country.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, they did. I lived near Congo. It was called Zaire at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I lived on Lake Bukavu, which is a famous lake in,
Mm-hmm.
they had the methane explosion. I mean, it's a pretty famous place. In fact, I could see Zaire or Congo from
where you were staying.
Yeah, Wanda is an absolutely breathtaking country. They call it the land of 1,000 hills. And I literally, in the first village I lived in, lived on the hill by myself.
You lived in a village.
I lived in a village. Yeah, everybody lives in villages. Some people, are volunteers in cities. I lived in a village. And my village was mixed. And my village had a huge missionary compound. Mm-hmm. With, Christian missionaries were there. And they opened up a veterinarian hospital and a school. Mm-hmm. There were 2 schools in the village where I was. And
you taught in one of the schools?
I taught English in one of the schools. Mm-hmm. And I had middle school age children. I taught middle school age children. Anyway, I also had a postmate, another volunteer. She taught at the other school. But she lived on the main road. Our village was at the end of a very long road that had many villages. Ours was the last village. It was called Kibagora, was the name of our village. Mm-hmm. And so she lived on the main road. Rwandans were very strange people because Rwanda is a landlocked country, meaning they don't come in contact with a lot of people. And they claim that they did not participate in the transatlantic slave trade. Mm-hmm. And they didn't have a television station and one radio station. So the information that the people were exposed to was extremely limited. They didn't even know a lot about neighboring African countries. Wow. And so, very interesting. Very, very interesting. And there was no way I was an African American. What is an African American?
So how did you manage to get out of it then? I mean, to be safe.
I was not safe. That was the whole point. I wasn't safe. Ever.
So you were constantly threatened.
In my village, I was safe.
But if you left the village.
And then you have to remember a lot in African countries at war, there are military checkpoints all the time. So,
Just like here.
and I had to leave because I had to get my stipend.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It was very interesting.
Wow.
And so, constantly harassed. People would throw rocks at me. Even if they saw me with the white American woman who was my postmate, her name was Carissa, they would throw rocks. It was crazy. Even
they had to get you out of there.
Even if I was out with other volunteers, I literally have walked in restaurants with white volunteers, and every person in that restaurant would turn and look at me. I was met with a lot of hostility, and it was very stressful for me. And, I was
young. It was very dangerous.
Very dangerous, very stressful. And
that sounds almost like somebody black going to the South in the 40s or 50s and going into a restaurant and all the Klan turns around and about to get lynched.
But I was young and adventurous. And after about a month of being in Kibogora, Carissa and I got evacuated to Kigali, which is the capital of Rwanda, because there were landmine explosions on the road.
Oh my goodness.
So the UN came and swept the road for landmines, and we were sent back. So
was it as bad in Kigali?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I hung out at the American Club. I'm not even going. I was safe there. You know what I'm saying? I rarely ventured out by myself.
Yeah.
Anyway, we were there for about another month. Well, maybe another 2 months. And like I said, I had friends in the
right.
And I had Hutu friends, Tutsi friends, and I was cool. I did have a story, Peace Corp, you do everything that the people do. They stress that. Teachers are considered professionals in Africa. And everybody had a guard and everybody had a domestic. Yes. I did not want to do that, but, even the missionaries, they were like, just do it. Mm-hmm. They were like, that's the lay of the land here. You're in Rome doing some Romans. Okay. Right. Carissa never did, but I did. Mm-hmm. So I asked the missionaries, for recommendations. And they recommended this family who had a daughter. She was a young adult. I was 22. She was 19.
I mean, you're Naomi's age. Wow.
Right. I was 22. Absolutely. I was very young. And, well, like, slick out. When I went to Rwanda, I was 23. Okay. Anyway, her name was, I don't even remember her name, but the day that she was going to come in, because she was going to live with me, which I had this huge house. Carissa and I, we were young. She wanted her house. I wanted my house. Her house was on the main road. My house was on this beautiful little hill by itself. And, this little plateau. It was so cool. And we just didn't share. We didn't want to be roommates. Right. But we were friends. And I took off work this day to welcome the young woman into my home, and she didn't show up. And I waited a couple of hours. She never came. So I went to her parents' home and asked, I'm waiting for your daughter. They said, go see your school principal. My school principal was a Hutu. They were Tutsis. My school principal was a Hutu. So I went to go see him. And he and I were friends. I ate dinner at his house with his wife once a week. And it's something how the people in my village just accepted me. Right. And they were I felt very sincere. And so I go to him. I'm like, what's happening? He said, we think you need a nice Hutu girl. I was like, wait up, bro. Like, what? I'm like, what? And I told him, I'm not here to get into
all the politics and
the Hutu Tutsi conflict. I said, I have friends that are Hutu and Tutsi here. I'm not choosing sides here.
Right.
he was not listening to me.
And
He said, "Oh, we have a nice Hutu girl for you." They already had somebody. She was 14. She didn't go to school. So I was automatically not comfortable with that arrangement because I'm like, she needs to be in school.
right.
But she came from a very poor family. They weren't able to pay for
her to go to school.
Right, school fees.
And she was going to live with you.
Yes. The first young woman spoke French. This young girl, she was 14, she didn't speak French. She only spoke Kinyarwanda.
Which you had been discouraged
Which
from
I
learning.
didn't speak.
Right.
Right. So that was already a problem. And she just, it just didn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
I was more like a mother. She really didn't have any domestic keeping skills. You know what I'm saying? My diet, was American.
Right.
As much as it could be. I ate pasta, rice, you know what I'm saying? But
right.
anyway, it just didn't work. She was scared to sleep in a room by herself. So I had to drag a mat for her in my room. Her hygiene wasn't up to par. And I'm not saying that to be funny. It's just the truth.
That's just the truth of the matter.
When her time of the month, it was just disgusting.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And I was actually teaching this girl how to care for her body, how to to keep her body clean during
and this
her
is
cycle.
with you all not even speaking the same language.
Exactly. This do a lot of hand motion.
Right.
I was so mad. I was cooking for her. She will wash my clothes and hang them up. That helped because you had to wash clothes by hand. That's rough.
Well, we lived with washing by hand for years. So.
My knuckles aren't the same to this day. But it's just like, it was a disaster. I had to hire a guard. His name was Andre. He was like 26. He was cool. We used to speak in French. He used to literally guard my house from sundown to sunrise. And all of the teachers had that. Wow. All the professional people in Rwanda had that. That was a part of the culture. Mm-hmm. Domestique gendarme is what you call it in French. A guard in French. And, I paid them. I paid her what I was supposed to pay her, even though she really didn't do too much.
Even though you were cooking for her.
I was cooking for her. She washed the dishes, but I was cooking that food. I was shopping. Mm-hmm. She was very timid. And because she was out of, she was like a fish out of water.
Right.
And, it was just interesting. And then one day, I'm laying in bed. She's laying on the mat. I'm reading in bed because I have running water in my house. Most villages where there are teachers, where there are schools, normally have running water and electricity.
Okay.
And so, because the students have to shower, the students have to study, and it's, students have dorms.
So did the students lived in those particular villages, or they may have come from other villages and stayed in dorms?
Both.
Okay.
They're from the village and then they come from outside.
Okay.
Outlying villages.
Right.
Anyway, so the electricity goes off and I'm reading a book and Andre's like, it's cool. He's like, ça va, mademoiselle, ça va, mademoiselle. And I'm like, ça ne va pas. Like, it's not good.
Right.
Because I was reading. So I go to bed. I don't know what's going on. Like I said, I'm not on the main road. I'm on a plateau by itself. And a lot of my neighbors are on plateaus, but it was just such a beautiful, peaceful, beautiful environment. And the next morning I go to school and one of the missionaries runs into my class. She said, I just had to make sure you're all right. The missionaries knew the troubles that I was having in Wanda with mistaken identity. And she said, I just had to make sure you're all right. I was like, I'm all right. Like, why wouldn't I be all right?
Yeah, what happened?
She said, you don't know? I said, no, I don't know. She said that a mob of about 150 Hutu men started, their plan was to go through all the villages and kill all the Tutsis. And she knew, because she just knew people thought I was a Tutsi. She just wanted to make sure I was okay. She said, and your school principal was a part of that mob.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And so I was like, wow. I said, well, did they kill anybody? She said they killed somebody. She said they killed 2 people from our village. She said
So they were in your village.
They actually were in our village. And what happened, at the time, I don't know if it's still like this today, in Rwanda, their doors always had a little window in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the middle of the door, a little above the keyhole.
Right.
And it would have bars, just a little, maybe 2 or 3 bars in the glass. So the village photographer and the village vet, or vet in training, they were 2 young Tutsi men. They lived together. They were friends. And the mob was, first of all, they were in confusion, is what I was told. And like even at one village, they invaded the home of a woman who taught school in the village there, but she was from Zaire. And this woman, according to the missionary, she escaped the mob and ran up to the roof of her house. And the people in the mob said, oh, she's from Zaire. Like she ain't even one of us.
Wrong house.
But can you imagine how traumatized this woman is?
Yes, I would have probably been gone the next morning.
Anyway, they got to Kibagora, the village where Carissa and I were volunteers, and they went to these people's houses, the village photographer and the vet in training. They knocked the glass out. They got in their house. I don't know which one. Oh, yeah. The town photographer ran underneath his bed, and they macheted him through the wood of the bed. The town vet in training ran to the missionary compound, but they were cutting him, and this is the truth. When he ran to the hospital. When he got there, they chopped him in the head. His brain spilled to the floor.
And this was right in your village.
Right in the village.
And this was the night the lights went out.
Because they cut the electrical lines. And Peace Corp was like, y'all get over there to that missionary compound and don't you leave until we come. Y'all not staying in that village.
Man.
And, it was the schools, both of our schools, the staff got together and they threw us a going away dinner.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, because I had Hutu friends, and I had a very good friend named Alan. He was a Hutu man. And I went to go see him. I left that compound. I was like, Alan, please tell me you didn't have nothing to do with that. And he said no. And he told me, he said, I have Tutsi people in my family, through intermarriage. Right. He was like, I would never. He said no. But they threw us this dinner, goodbye dinner. It was very nice. The principals came.
But the principal was in the mob.
Mm-hmm. Sure was. And it was very, I don't really remember how I interacted with him after that. It couldn't have been too much. But I did say goodbye to him and to his wife. But
wow.
So we went to the capital for a few days, and then they gave us a new assignment. I was on the other side of Rwanda. I was on the side where my sister friends were. And I was 45. In Kibagora, I was 6 hours away from the capital. Mm-hmm. But in this new village, and I don't even remember the name of the village, it was all Hutu village. It was a totally different experience. When I tell you, it was 45 minutes outside of the Capitol. So in Peace Corps hires a lot of the, indigenous people of the country. So like in Peace Corps, our secretary, her name was Gloriosa. She was a Hutu woman. Our driver, his name was Ferdinand. I remember these people so well. He was a Hutu man. My direct program director's name was Pierre. He was a Tutsi man. So it was Hutus. Our doctor, I don't remember her name, was a Tutsi woman. And so, you go in the office, you talk to, you have relationships with these people.
Right.
And Pierre, who was a Tutsi man and my program director, he drove me to my new village. So we get there, we're driving to the school, and near the school, we see the students cleaning this really nice house. I really got excited.
Because you thought it was yours?
It was mine.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I mean,
it's where you were going to be staying.
That was the only reason the students would be doing that.
Uh-huh.
Because students clean the house. When teachers come to a village, the students clean the house. So the principal greeted us at the car. He looked at Pierre. He looked at me. And so Pierre was like, yeah, I know he was probably like, yeah, this stupid stuff is about to start. Pierre says, is that her house? He said, no. We waited for a couple of hours. He took us to the nastiest house. It had not been cleaned. The door to the bathroom could not even be open. Pierre said, no, he's going to open. I said, I said, I don't even want to see the bathroom. I said, I'll use the outhouse and I'll take bucket baths because I have running water. Mm-hmm. I said, so it's okay. And he would, Pierre was he felt so bad, but he couldn't make this man. So I was like, and so I said, take me back to Kigali. I'm not ready to just settle in right now.
Right.
And he complied.
And you couldn't refuse being there?
I mean, I probably could, but I just didn't. Mm-hmm. It didn't even really cross my mind, quite honestly. And by this time, I was just so used to mistreatment that this was just another incident. So what I did, I went back to Kigali. I went to the Peace Corps house where the volunteers stayed and I told people what I was faced with. And a group of volunteers came back with me and helped me clean the house, helped me paint the house. It was men and women, bought paint in Kigali, paint brushes, roller, whatever, clean supplies, and went back and cleaned and painted my house.
And did you get the bathroom working?
Never. I never opened that door. I didn't want to. I was scared. I was afraid. I just kept my outhouse very clean. Right. And my students, though, this was interesting. My students were the children of refugees. And their parents were at a refugee camp near the northern part of Rwanda. And, African children are very polite and respectful. So I never felt any animosity from them, my students.
Right.
They were very eager to learn. They considered themselves very blessed because they were being sponsored, going to school because their families were homeless, came and living in just abject poverty. And so I was not invited to staff meetings. I'll be walking by.
Staff meetings going on.
And I was never invited. And I had one friend in the village. He was also taught English. He was from Zaire or Congo. Mm-hmm. So, he and his family would have me over. And they had very modest, they didn't have their house was sparsely furnished. They were very friendly. And he said people were standoffish to him too. But at least he got those invitations to that staff meeting. And so, I just Africans are very hospitable people. My neighbors did not welcome me. It was unbelievable.
Wow.
But one of my sister volunteer friends was 45 minutes away. So I used to visit her. She was a healthcare worker and she was living gully. When I say gully, I mean she had a dirt floor, no electricity. She just had rafters and a thatch roof. Girlfriend was living gully. Okay. But I didn't care.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Walk in her house, your feet get dirty. I mean, just she was living the life. And I used to go there. Wow. So let me tell you what happened. I was in Kigali. I'm teaching. Teaching is going well. To pick up supplies and, just to like restock on some things. And I wanted some music. So I was on my way, home. But in the taxi stand, there was a music store. So I went into the music store and I'm like, mind my business. And this very big man comes in and literally pushes me down on the floor. We didn't exchange greetings, nothing.
He just pushed you.
Pushed hard. So I get up. And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, he takes his hand and slaps me and slaps me in the floor.
Oh my goodness.
And at this point, I just lose it. I have a emotional breakdown because this is just like a buildup. I didn't tell you, like, even at military checkpoints, because the country was at war, everybody got to get out, show what's in their whatever if it's luggage, if it's whatever you're traveling
your bag,
with.
whatever.
Right. And they would get to me. They would purposefully leave me for last, no matter where I was in the line. Some of the soldiers would take my passport because I couldn't even travel with a Peace Corp passport. Mm-hmm. I had to travel with my American passport. Or they would just harass me. And then, like from my village, the first village to Kigali, it's like 6 military checkpoints. And when it would always take a long time for them to deal with me. I have literally had to run and snatch my passport from a soldier's hand and run back to the van. And then when you get to the van, the people in the van, because I'm taking so long, would be mad. And
at you. Fussing. But it wasn't your fault.
It wasn't my fault. I was just, at this point, I was like, this stupid country. You know what I'm saying?
Girl, you a good one. You are tough. I know I'd have been gone the next day.
I think I don't know what you call it. I don't know what you call that. But anyway, when this happened, and nobody helped me when this guy
attacked you.
Nobody helped me. I cried from the taxi car. The taxi stand. Gar is like the French word. Mm-hmm. I walked a long way from there to the American Club because the Peace Corp office was even further. Mm-hmm. And I'm literally, how little children just cry shamelessly in the street when I was crying like that. And, people driving by looking like I was hysterical. And at the American Club, they called the Peace Corps office, and the country director, Alan, comes. And I told him what happened. And I said, I want to go. I said it like, how we can talk.
Right.
These ninjas trying to kill me. Right. And I ain't say ninja.
Right.
Okay. It was just like, I was gone. I was gone.
Right.
He was like, and he said it. He said, we really admire you. He said, and you're a really good volunteer. I was a good teacher.
Right.
And he said, could you please just consider a transfer to another country? I was like, no. I said, you should have been offered me a transfer. No. I mean, I was going off. And so he said, just call your parents. Just call your parents, I called my parents. Now, mind you, I had written this letter that was like this long, front and back. I mass produced it and sent it to people in the States, letting them know what was going on with me here.
Wow.
And so I just knew my parents were going to be like, come home, baby. So I'm telling them what happened, telling them what Alan offered. And my parents were like, take the transfer. I was like, did you hear what I said? These trying to kill me. And my father was like, not in support of me going to Peace Corp. He said, I'm paid 4 years of college and you going somewhere to be a volunteer? So I just knew he was going to
come on home.
My father was like, I've been talking to some people and, being a father, this is a really good experience for you and, go somewhere else. And I just can't even believe.
Well,
I can't even believe it.
But you ended up going to Cameroon.
I ended up, no, they drove me back to my village. And Alan said, you do not get on nothing. We will come see what you need. He said, don't get on. Because at this point, they were taking Tutsis off of public transportation and killing them.
Like they're doing now with the ICE deportations. They ain't killing them, but they deporting them.
Right, killing them. And then if there were any Hutu people defending the Tutsis, they would get killed. Yeah. So I was banned from transportation. So what I did for my mental, because I was in the village with the ugly acting people.
Right.
I made friends with a motorcycle driver, and I told him every Friday at this time, I need you to come pick me up and drive me to my friend's village who was 45 minutes away.
Girl, I'd have been scared to do that.
I was crazy at this point. I had, at this point, I was just like, I just had to get out of that village. And he did it. Door-to-door service. He did it. I paid him a little extra. He was like, and he came to pick me up too. And I did that for a while. Before they finally transferred you. No, this is what happened. So I'm I had a little radio with battery operated radio, and I would listen to the news. And I ran out of batteries. So I don't know what's going on in the world. And I was out of batteries for about a week. And then here comes Pierre in the Peace Corp vehicle. He was like, I'll be back in 6 hours. You're leaving. You're being evacuated. I didn't know that the peace talks had ended. I didn't know that the country was in full-scale war. I didn't know any of that. But guess what happened? As I'm closing out my house, I have furniture, I have pots, dishes, bed, living room set, table, dining room. Guess who shows up? My neighbors to get my stuff. They hadn't come to welcome you, didn't speak to you. They came to get my stuff. And I, in every bit of Southwest Atlanta style, went off on these people. I mean, I was straight from the SWATs at Southwest Atlanta. You cussed them out? Oh, yes, I did. And I went to my... So they knew you wasn't Tutsi then. I went to my friend from Congo he had sparsely furnished house. I gave him everything. Yeah. Hallelujah. And left. He and his family, they took that stuff on their heads. They were very grateful. And I was just so happy that I could help, do something nice for them because they had been so nice to me. Right. And so he came and got us. We went to, we were placed in American diplomat homes. Mm-hmm. We weren't even put up in a hotel. They put us in the houses of American USAID workers, U.S. Embassy workers, American personnel Peace Corps homes. Right. And we had to go to the embassy every day to get an update. Mm-hmm. And they were like, y'all are... Now, mind you, I did put in for a transfer. So my transfer is already underway. The other volunteers were being evacuated. They were deciding... Well, first of all, they were trying to watch the war, but then they were deciding whether or not to evacuate them back to Washington, D.C. or to a neighboring African country. Mm-hmm. But they were, at any rate, their Peace Corps career was halted. They had to, but Peace Corps has to give you a medical clearance before they send you back to the States or, release you from your duties. And so we leave, and me and my sister friends, we decide, okay, we're going to get us some, we're going to get us some pedicures, manicures. There was a hotel near the American Embassy. Now, there's a military checkpoint right outside of the American Embassy. So we have to go through it. And the soldier is a Hutu soldier. And, he's speaking French to all the sisters. When he gets to me, he starts speaking Kinyarwanda. So in French, I reply, I'm not Rwandan. I'm an American. I don't speak Kinyarwanda. I speak French and English. That was like my spiel.
Right.
And he keeps speaking in Kinyarwanda. I keep replying. And then he gets very aggressive with me. And he spits on me. I am not, he spit from his mouth, lands on my body. And I was like, oh no. And so, he's short. He a Hutu. I'm tall or taller than him.
Right.
And I'm like, he in my face, I'm in his face. And my Peace Corps, my sister friends are crying. They're so upset. One of them runs back to the embassy. The assistant, her name is Gloria. She's a white American woman. She
runs outside.
She's like, calls my American name. Get back to that fence right now. Get out that soldier's face right now. And I do. She comes to me. She was like, you don't see that he has a hand grenade in his hand. I said, well, what was he going to do? Blow himself up?
Because he had to blow up both of y'all.
I was like, I was just, they were like, oh.
You were finished.
I was done.
You were done.
I was done. They got me out of I was on a plane to Kenya the next morning. So they were like, I go back to the Peace Corps office and the doctor sees me and she's like, I think you should, she said, we want to send you to a counselor. I was like, no. I said, because I don't want that to, go on my record. I need psychiatrist. She said, it's not going to, she was like, honey, I'm Rwandan and I need a counselor. She said, I need a counselor. For what the things, the harassment I undergo. Even going back to the guy that pushed me, slapped me, pushed me, then slapped me, pushed me. Peace Corps didn't take that lightly. That went to the embassy. I went to the local police station with a U.S. Embassy representative. And
I was going to ask if you filed.
No, Gloria, our secretary. Well, her name was Gloriosa, our secretary for Peace Corps. She called to the taxi stand, and she asked what happened. She had a name. And she asked why didn't anybody help her? And they said, we scared of him. She did a little more research. This was a man that was employed by the Kigali Police Department to harass Tutsi people in Kigali. That was his job. And I forgot to tell you, one of my French instructors from training was in the area. And he didn't help me either. And I saw him. And the guy said, when, after I left off crying, the French instructor said, she's not Rwandan, she's an American. And he said, and they just killed the French ambassador in Kinshasa, which actually did happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was like, so I went with the embassy representative to the police station in Kigali, and we had the man's name. And the guy,
but it really wasn't even worth it, was it? Because
at first we didn't use the man's name. He took down my information first. Mm-hmm. And then the representative from the embassy said, we have a name. And I'm not exaggerating. When he called the man's name, the officer taking the report stopped writing. Never wrote the man's name down. So we knew it was true. And then, he was just like, we're going to look into it.
Oh, boy.
But the next day, I was going to Kenya.
Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. And then 2 weeks later, No, I was there for a week. At the end of the second week, my God. Anyway, over a week later, it was like 7:30 in the morning, and I heard all this knocking on my hotel because I stayed at a hotel around from the Peace Corp office in Kenya, and I was basically waiting for my transfer to come through.
Mm-hmm.
And Peace Corps had put out, there's an English teacher that's available to come to your country, and this was waiting for a country to respond. And I opened the door, and it was all the volunteers from Peace Corps from Wanda. They'd been evacuated. They decided to close them out in Kenya, in Nairobi. And we had the biggest party in that little bitty hotel room. And I'll never forget, we were loud. I said, Sade just got a new album. It was Love Deluxe. We were playing Love Deluxe. It was just a reunion.
Right.
And we got a chance. I left, they were there for 2 weeks. And I left a week later. Right. On my way, I had two choices, Guinea Conakry or Cameroon. And I chose Cameroon. And so which was a lovely experience.
Yes, okay, hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Like totally different, just beautiful experience.
So really interesting.
Yeah.
Do you still speak French?
A little.
Well, you don't have to speak French to me because I speak no French. I took it in 8th grade or something. I took it maybe a year, maybe 2 years of French, and that was it. And I never used it, so.
Yeah, just a little bit.
You have had the most interesting experience.
Yes.
Wow. Right. So now we move to the kingdom.
Right.
So we talked about Atlanta. New Kingdoms. Talk to me about New Kingdom School and Holiness and the different summer programs and the summer camps and things.
Backing up to Atlanta, I started off in the restaurant as a waitress. And then I definitely went to School of the Prophets, and we had a project. Nasi Gram gave us a project.
You said you went to School of the Prophets?
Yeah.
So they had School of the Prophets in Atlanta?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
And he basically followed the same
format here?
Mm-hmm. And it was once a week. And he gave us a project. I really don't even remember what my topic was, but I had charts and you know what I'm saying? I did visual aids, and he was so impressed that he asked me to be his personal secretary. Now, Atara Gildeet was the secretary, amongst many other things, but she wasn't his personal secretary. She was helping run
everything,
the complex. But I was his first personal secretary. I learned so much from Nasi Gram.
Wow.
Such a powerful and amazing man. He taught me so many things. He looked out for me. I'm forever just grateful for, I even lived with him. You know what I'm saying? And so I learned a lot. I definitely learned a lot from him. And so I'm very thankful for the spirit and the dedication and seriousness that he emphasized that you had to have in the kingdom, that a lot of us had from Atlanta. So when I got here, and I started working they wanted me to work for the Royal Secretariat. I didn't want to be a secretary anymore. I was like, no, I really wanted. I really was trying to acclimate to being a new mother. And so eventually I moved upstairs. I think Yalita was about maybe 3 and Convivial 1. Mora Shaira approached me about tutoring children who were behind in English at New Kingdom School and Holiness. And I did it. And then she had to go to the States for the summer. She said, can you run the summer camp program? And I was like, okay. It was a lot of responsibility.
I'm sure it was.
And I did it for 3 summers by myself.
Wow.
And then after that, I joined partnership with Ike Emmanuel and Acote.
Okay.
And we did it for about 7 years together.
Okay.
And we had some of the most amazing summer school programs for our children. A lot of work, hard work, a lot of planning, organization went into it. We had communal ma'am, you know what I'm saying? We had agriculture, tie-dye, jewelry making. Acote taught a communications class and art is life workshop for the summer camp. We had like the best of the kingdom. Drumming, just sewing, crocheting. Everything. We had reflex, everything. We didn't, we had an ecology class. It was so much when during the time that Woman of Valor was the principal. At our closeout ceremony, we had returned to royalty ethics. Tutsi pool tea imakarli. And we just had we had big stuff. And she said, you could easily pay $600 for this camp in the state. It was such high quality Ministry of Agriculture. Anaton and Stafford, they taught that it was just amazing. And then sometimes, some summers weren't as successful. Right. But for the most part, that was successful. And then we stopped doing it when the children went across to school, across the street to school to Akva, even though we did have students from Akva attend our summer camp program. Okay. But it was mostly attended by children who attended New Kingdom School in Holiness. And so we stopped because they had the K-Tie note. Yeah. And then,
I'm sure we're nowhere near as nice.
No. And then Woman of Valor, she did Camp Identity. And she asked me, could I help? And I did. And that was another powerful program and had breakfast, snack, and lunch, Right. And then, it just kind of fell off. We did that for 2 or 3 summers. And then Atara Havaya, Atara Kokava had Conscious Care Camp. Okay. Which was a little more, it was open to everybody, but the numbers were smaller. We didn't do it every day, but it definitely was a focus on self for the children. Okay. And, communal snack, communal lunch, just a very high quality program. Elohai beka batachti ala bosha al yalsu